everybody, and welcome back to the Old Boon Podcast, episode 40. Nothing?
Yippee!
Yeah.
Guys,
Let's
come on.
yippee.
Hello? Hype it up. Hello? Are you alive? You're killing me. Jay's
Yippee.
killing the game, and Jakun. All right, I am your host, Blue Squadron, joined as always with my co-host, the Jumping Raccoon.
Hi, my name is Jakin. I'm an Awakening Wisdomane with 765 gear score. Now, I recently hit my Pen Debo earring. We will be going for a second earring in the future. So watch out for that. I do a lot of endgame content such as the dungeons, Olens. You can find me over at twitch.tv/JakinVT. Oh, yeah, V before the T.
Some people just never struggle. This is 9th attempt. This is basically the first try.
What?
Every time. Every
It
time.
was the first time on the 9th attempt, yeah.
Yeah. And Blonde Bear?
Hi, it's me. I'm Blonde Bear. I like to party and grind. I just tapped a Tet Debo for profit this morning, so I'm chilling.
What?
We're we're grinding the LVA, we're grinding the merchant ring, and living the dream.
Oh my goodness. Wait, what did you tap this morning?
Tet Debo earring with Samson, but Samson did not get his Tet, and I did, so I sold it. Because it's an extra.
Don't you already have it? Yeah, you already have
I do.
yours. So
Yeah.
you decided Samson, this is a good idea, Samson, as the most carried streamer in Black Desert Online history, and someone that literally already has his earring. Would you like to tap your earring with me? And he said yes.
he got his like 5th one to hit the Tet, and I was like, let's do the group enhancing. I'm gonna take every opportunity to do that because it's so fun. And we went all the way to try, and then he did not go Tet, but it didn't downgrade, so he's got more opportunities in the future. Mine did go though, so.
Of course it did.
Classic
you hit the
Blonde
succeed
Bear.
button.
The classic.
Yeah. No, it didn't go. You're all in space. Okay. All right. Jumping straight into the first topic. I'm sorry. Look, it had to be said. It just had to be said. Demolished. Okay. Jumping right into the first topic. It's all the rage this week. The global lab balance changes. For those of you that have been somehow out of touch with the community this week or not in touch with what's going on, a big balance patch hit the global labs, basically giving every single class in the game, with the exception of I think Dracania and then maybe 1 or 2 other classes, more frontal guards and more super armors overall. So basically everyone got more protection across the board. Some classes, I'm sure that you saw in Pistanity, Armin was testing out Berserker and things like this. Some classes had it better than others, but like overall, they said that the balance changes were to make the game, quote, easier and to help balance around large scale PvP so that new players could play large scale PvP at a more competent level without, I suppose, struggling, I guess is the word that I'm going to use. This patch has been relatively negatively received across the board, but that's by PvPers. I am curious how our PvE lords of the community here in that Blonde Bear and Jakun respond to getting more protections basically on every single class in the game. Jay, what are your thoughts on it?
I've seen many mixed opinions. Which was kind of expected, but for me, definitely if you're someone who just focused on PvE, this was a big W. I was excited for my class to get buffs. I think we can all relate to wanting the class that we play to be the best it could be. However, I think, whenever people talk about balance and stuff, it's a very subjective thing. One thing that you might think is balance might be too weak or too strong by somebody else, I don't think BDO will ever be balanced, but I think unbalance is the reason why kind of like meta exists, right? I think there's a lot of people that roll to the meta and have a lot of fun with it, and I think that's okay. And metas always seem to change, right? They come and go, especially when a brand new class releases, right? We saw that with like Megu and stuff, right? It was I was talking to this about my chat the other day when we were discussing the global lab changes, that balance and meta are kind of like light and darkness. One cannot exist without the other, and they always seem to travel in parallel lines, and when one changes, the other also travels right beside it. But the thing is, it never touches, right? I think this is because of this interaction, they won't ever come together, the lines will never intersect. and balance and meta will never like kind of like meet in the middle. But I wanted to ask you guys, like, in terms of like the direction of the balance changes, do you prefer more minor changes like number tunings, smaller mechanical changes, or do you guys prefer more like major changes like reworked abilities, brand new abilities, brand new mechanics for a class?
I've voiced my opinion on this. I really like big changes, big sweeping changes,
Big changes.
and then adjustments over time. I like to really shake the snow globe up,
Mm.
so to speak, and then have them adjusted over time. It makes the game more interesting.
Mhm.
That being said, I'm not sure that this was the way to necessarily mix it up. Blonde, what are your thoughts on the patch? And then, like, what are your thoughts on Jay's question there?
I think my initial statement is I find it really weird that everybody's calling it a balance patch.
It is
I
a
don't think I've
balance
seen
patch.
any opinion of anybody say, wow, this is a really balanced patch.
This is what balance looks
This
like.
is
You know why? Because no one can be CC'd now. This is what balance looks like.
true
Standing.
balance.
Yes.
I just find it really funny that it's like, I feel like this is like, I just would not call it a balance patch or a balance thing. I know that that's what the phrase is when we're doing any adjustments to classes and stuff. I just find that to be the weirdest sort of thing from this. When it comes to your initial question, Blue, about like as a PvE lord, how do I feel about this? I don't know. I think most classes have a semi-fairly balanced kit when it comes to protections and frontal guards. Like when they noticed that they were introducing more spots that did CCs on them, like when we were evolving through grinding throughout the 3rd and 4th and 5th year of the game, they're like, hey, you know, these spots are going to kind of CC you, so we need to kind of adjust that. So like, for example, on Zerker, they added like super armor on our spin when they realized that was going to be our main staple of a lot of our damage. Instead of other abilities, and they adjusted accordingly. Like I think that would be more of a balance thing because they're making it so that you can use this ability that's supposed to last a few seconds actually usable rather than CCing you out of it. That would be something they've balanced. So I find it really weird that like maybe hyper overprotecting everything for, and again, this is from like a PvE specific standpoint. I think that sure, there are some classes that fall a little short, but I don't think that this is like oh my gosh, finally I got the thing I needed. I don't know. That just seems incredulous. I think that it's they do a pretty decent job of giving you some frontal guards, give you some protections, give you some super armors. You don't need to have like a massive amount, like getting more frontal guards and more of this and more of that. It's like, is that not what the gear and stuff is for? Like adding more of these like sort of quote unquote protections and frontal guards and this and that. I mean, kind of, doesn't that devalue your gear in some type of way? Because now it's not your brunt of your gear taking it. It's like whatever the, oh, if I have 20 frontal guards on a class that's taking it. So like, I find that to be, I don't know. I think that they can adjust that without it needing to be a massive balance patch where we're doing 10 changes and every class is getting a bunch of tons of stuff. I don't think so. And I'm sorry, Jay, what was your follow-up question?
Yeah, Jay.
Like, do you prefer more minor changes like number tuning, smaller mechanical changes? Do you like more major changes like reworked abilities, brand new mechanics and stuff? I think we saw something similar to so a good example is I think Archer didn't have a stealth mechanic before and then they added it later in the future, something like that. In terms
I think
of,
it's
like,
it's tough. I think like for an example, the new scholar class, they released it, everybody gets to test it, and then they can do small changes periodically. They do a 0.1, a 0.2, a 0.3 patch change on this class. I think that's the appropriate way to do it. Doing like a massive thing, especially when like no one asked for certain things, like it's weird, right? Because like getting a new class, we can look at things, and or just classes in general. We can see what's missing. We can see what we need. We can see what player feedback is without obviously just going into full demands, because if we just went into every full demand of a BDO player, the game would be broken. But I think that we can adjust periodically. Like, for example, again, I'm going to use the new class because it's just easy because I've been playing it. There's some animations that could be sped up. There's maybe some damage on the second parts of some abilities that can be adjusted and buffed. There's some speed on the class that can be adjusted. And so having like the quote unquote big drop being the class and then like periodically doing small updates on top of that, I much prefer that. I think that these massive updates only just make it the community so polarized, right? Because you're going to have half the people saying like, oh my gosh, we didn't need this, and the other half being like, oh my gosh, my class is so easy and fun now. Haha, everybody else sucks. You know?
One thing I noticed that when you were talking about, oh, we should just do like periodical changes for this or that class instead of like all widespread. But I've also seen comments where if they do that, because they have done that before, where they choose like a batch of classes, and then I see comments like, "Oh no, they forgot about my class. How come my class didn't get it?" You know?
Yeah, no,
And
I
so I'm
mean,
like,
there are classes that
it's
do
like,
get forgotten, though. It definitely, I mean, it's kind of a PA thing, right? Well, imagine being a class that didn't get adjusted in this patch when it has almost all the
No, yeah,
classes. Like,
there was
that
someone in
probably
my
feels
chat.
even worse. You know what I mean? Because there
Yeah,
were some classes that weren't featured on this. So I don't know.
yeah.
I think that, I mean, they did this back in the day when they released Awakenings originally. Like, they did it one class every other week or something like that. And everybody had their time to shine. Everybody had their OP moment. But I think it's easier for them to balance. But then again, I don't know what PA's team structure is. Do they have one team working on one class, or do they have a cluster of classes for a specific team? There's no way to know that. You know, it's not like we communicate with them on that. So like, it'd be cool if
actually.
Actually.
I did talk to the team, the development team at the Calpheon Ball the last time. Did either of you go to the Calpheon Ball last year?
I
Nope.
did not get to go.
Okay. All right. So the development team was there, and it was explained to me that they essentially have one person for every single class in the game. And whatever
Wait,
that
one person?
One person. And whatever that person says, that is what goes on that class. Right? So like every single one of them has like a vision for how the class they feel the class should play and like how it interacts with the other classes in the game, and they all talk to each other, but like whatever that person says goes, and that is how it is.
I mean, that's cool from like a design standpoint, but I feel like you can never really truly get any real balance at that because you have no one to bounce ideas off of other than maybe your other class leads. But if I couldn't tell you the first thing about what Valk needs or wants as someone who doesn't play it. You know what I mean? That's kind of wild. I mean, so if it is an individual that's choosing it, like how do we know that the feedback's getting to them? How do we know it's going to be good feedback? How do we know that they're going to listen to it? I feel like when you do, or where is the class lead that is in charge of XYZ class that never gets those changes? Are they fine with being like middle of the pack or mediocre or even bad and they just don't care? Or do they have a bunch of other job functions other than just the balance of their class? Like that's rough.
The Kuno class lead went to go get milk
and never came back.
Yeah.
Ain't that the truth?
About 4 years ago. Yeah. Just never came back.
I just think it's better to do the smaller changes. The big changes always lead to well, it's always the big changes are associated with like when they did the major rebalancing of removing protections and CCs, when they added protections and CCs, like every one of those is always associated with the big change, and I feel like that always leads to like massive negative player sentiment. I think that smaller adjustments are better, but that means that they have to make those adjustments. They can't just say, yeah guys, we're gonna make small adjustments, and then like a bunch of classes get ignored. But I mean, ultimately it's PA's thing, right? So. Well,
okay, so I'm curious because both of you agreed last time when this came around. I felt like the lone duck in the room when it was like, yo, do we like this way that Perlibus chooses to balance things, where it's just like instead of just nerfing the one or two classes that are doing way too exceptionally well, we're gonna buff literally every other class in the game. So like in this case. In this case, you have the exact same direction. I mean, they do this every time. You have the exact same direction where it's just like, okay, well, Draconia's playing too like well, right? Like, because Dracania was the only one that really didn't get changes at all. So like, let's buff everyone else up to this standard, right, of protection and whatnot.
I think when it comes to protection, CCs, frontal guards, stuff like that, I think that's way more of a complex issue than just adjusting numbers. When it comes to like, we're looking at balance numbers and we see this class is making 15k trash and every other class is making 10k to 5k trash. I feel like that's something that's not really difficult to address because we're just adjusting numbers at that point. I feel like when it comes to CCs, protection, that ties into not just the PvE. It ties into PvP. It ties into every stage of PvP, whether it's Siege, Node War, AOS, open world, so many different forms. And not even that, now we have between the dungeons and we have the Altar of Blood coming out, we've got the boss blitzes. There are so many things they have to pay attention for, like adding one extra super armor on an ability could absolutely break a class in like half of those things. And I think that is way more of an experimental thing that they can't really do stuff with. Because now you have classes, for example, I saw some arguments made where like, okay, well now everybody has protection, so this class that was unprotected but was a glass cannon now can just freely run around and nuke people, versus another class is protected because it doesn't do that much damage, so like this and that and this, that. I see this like tit for tat a lot in the community, and then there's obviously skill involved. I feel like it's just really, really tough. It's a tough decision to make to do that, and I feel like you're always going to be upsetting people more often than the other way around. But that could just be my perspective of seeing the commentary on this too. I haven't seen any. I've seen like 1% positive comments about this this global lab. It has not been positive, and specifically to the PvE element, I haven't seen anybody say, "Oh my gosh, finally my PvE will be so good." I'm not gonna lie, I've not seen a single comment about any of that in any Discord I'm looking at.
I would say that's probably because the PvP community, although it's the smallest community,
Dominated it.
is the loudest. And when you have big PvP changes, they are not going to mess around. I mean, you remember the one-sided deck changes, at least in North America. Oh my goodness.
Well, even actually on that issue, I had a lot of PvEers tell me, "Oh, finally, thank God, these guilds won't be able to hunt me down," and stuff like that.
Well, actually, they weren't saying it that loud. It was, "Oh, thank God, we're getting changes."
Yeah.
So
well, I mean,
these changes are so
I didn't think they wanted to make it public, right?
They didn't want anyone else to know that they had that opinion, but they were secretly
the mice on the
like
lion.
closetedly very happy about the one-sided deck changes, right?
Yeah.
So, Blonde, I'm curious, how do you feel? Like, just one statement either way. Do you like just buffing everything constantly, or do you think that they should employ nerfs?
When it comes to adjusting damage numbers and stuff, I think that a massive change is fine. It can be adjusted better. When it comes to CC's protection stuff, no, not this specific kind of thing. It just can't be. One single ability change can change the entire dynamic. So no, in this specific case, no, I don't think so. But on the other end, like you said, I do agree. Yeah, on like the large scale of numbers and stuff, it's different.
Yeah,
it's just too different. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Jay, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about this general consensus that like every single time they try to go change something, it is can we buff it and how, instead of, okay, well, let's just nerf the overpowered class?
I think there needs to be a compromise when it comes to these kinds of changes. Like, just, when you give something, you have to take something back, right? Otherwise, it can get out of proportion. Like, for example, I remember this one clip of Armin was trying out this like Zerker change where he could basically infinitely run without using any stamina and stuff. And there was nothing to like hold that back. You know what I mean? Because before there was like a window, I guess. But now it's just like fully protected. You can just keep going and going and going. And
well, before I think there was a frontal guard instead of an SA.
Was it?
Yes, it was a frontal guard.
Yeah. So like,
but it wouldn't last the whole time.
Yeah. And so like now what they were pointing out was the fact that it's literally just full SA the whole time unless you're an iframe. And there's no stamina usage at all, right?
So I think whenever these changes happen, just I guess maybe take away something as well, and that would be helping the situation. I'm not too sure. It's hard for me to weigh on this because I I am mostly a PvE player, so this is from the PvE perspective of things. So.
We have certainly gotten the PvP perspective all week. The question is what the PvEers might think about the change. Now, how do you think about it raw, Jay? Like, how do you think about adding a bunch of protections to your class?
I mean, it's definitely really convenient for, at least for me, like as I do play Awakening Wusa, and there was a lot of complaints in the very beginning about how she felt very unprotected. But for me, I kind of took it as a way for me to adapt to the unprotection. So I saw a lot of Awakening Wusas like literally standing in the middle of a pack of hex mobs, and they're like, oh my god, I'm so unprotected. Well, maybe it's because you're using unprotected abilities in the middle of a pack when you should be using it from range because it's a ranged ability. And so I just decided to, just play better, I guess, to get good.
They were all bad.
And that's on how I got.
On that point, how, like, I understand we want to make the game easier and accessible, but how easy does it need to be? How easy is too easy before, like, Are you
we're
really
not
playing the
even-
game, or are you pressing one button?
Oh no,
That's
I think
that's
I'll be honest. There's enough depth to Black Desert that like it's going to have a high enough skill ceiling regardless of what you do. It doesn't really matter, in my opinion. Just because, I mean, I'll state for the court an example of Dota 2 and how ridiculously complicated Dota 2 is, right? And then look how super easy League of Legends is. 4 abilities and a passive. Every single hero or every single champion is like that, right? Very simple. In order to go back to base, you hit the B button, right? It's just like a piece of cake. Like
Except
you can
Aphelios and Hwei.
okay, yeah, well, I mean, Aphelios, pros, no one knows what you're doing. Cons, you don't know what you're doing. But like but like for most classes or for most champions in the game like that, it's literally just it's 4 abilities and a passive, and for some abilities it's really easy, right?
I don't know. I'd agree with old League, like season 1 through maybe 5. But
see, that's when the league was
new League
like,
is on another level. It's almost Dota level, where everything has a double passive and on use with like 3 extra things on the ability. Like you're looking at like Viego or Aphelios, for example, compared to Annie. Like, yes, I agree. Annie's got 4 abilities, use a thing. It's pretty simplified. I think they've gotten to the Dota level of the complexity, right? We have these crazy characters that are doing all these things and have double stats, double abilities, double things. I don't know. I would agree with you on Old League, but I think it just gets complex over time because people want that complexity too.
Well, when did League get the most popular, right? Seasons 1 through 5 is when League like really took off, right?
Well,
so like,
it also was like a new genre built from the Blizzard part of the game, the MOBA, right?
But like all of this to
Dota.
state that like MOBAs were new back then and people thought it was going to be too complicated. StarCraft 2 is too complicated. Like that game is too complicated. I love StarCraft 2. It is like my favorite game of all time, but like it is extremely hard for players to get into just because of how complex it is. Black Desert is already way too complex, right? Simplifying it to even 50% of where we have it right now is still complex enough that people would still find the PvP engaging. I think that, like, for example, you could take away mouse to move, which would riot, like the PvP community would probably riot in the streets, at least for PC. You could take away mouse to move on basically every single class in the game and simplify the game in a really big way. And that would probably be a good change. For
You
the
could
game
lead to more
overall.
balancing changes. I mean, I was still an advocate for removing mouse to move because what it does is it creates this inherently insanely high skill ceiling for anybody that wants to participate it versus not. And then they can't balance around that because they know someone's going to do mouse movement into some other crazy ability that they're trying to help make, and they can't do that because it'll just be absolutely broken.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I think we're kind of all on the same page with this, but like, you guys would still rather not have nerfs. Like, I think, like, obviously Jay is always he's gotta. I think it would be best if we all just like lived in perfect happiness with each other. Like, okay, buddy, like. But like, yeah, obviously the best of both worlds is if they manage both. But like, I personally think that like in most cases they could just nerf the OP class and just call it a day.
I think that's real balance, right? You have class A, it's got 3 protections, 2 CCs, and 1 frontal guard, right? Then you have class B, 3 super armors, 3 frontal guards, 3 CCs, and it's got really good damage. It's like, how do we not see the parallels here? I know it's not that black and white when it comes to classes, because what if the class that has barely anything can also go invisible and stealth and this and that, and you can kind of put that into your formula a little bit, but I feel like it's really not that hard to see what design choice makes this class really complex or hard or difficult or hard to fight against, and just be like, hey, like, let's adjust that. I don't think there's any reason to just give everybody full super armor, full whatever, because then I feel like it's, and I've seen this before, it's gonna go back to like this weird range meta. Not that it hasn't already been, but like, why would you ever play melee if we're gonna be fully frontal block glass cannon?
Was it ever not the ranged meta? Like, I
feel like for a little bit we've had some good skirmish classes that were able to get in there. I feel like the Zerker era, 200%, 100%, where it's like they can get in there and disrupt some stuff, so you can do your pushes. You have like like Drax and Musa is able to kind of get in there for specific things. I think there's been points in the meta where we're able to move more into certain things. Obviously, with like the caps and stuff, that's changed things. And I don't know every single individual node war best in slot class thing, but
yeah,
I think it's definitely moved around.
When do you think BDO was at its like peak for PvP?
Medaya going into Valencia when awakening weapons were first introduced, and you had Pry Duo try awakening weapons. Yeah, that was peak BDO era.
I think that when Steam released.
When was that?
Like just before or right at Steam release, because like back then it was the Wild West. Was that was when Striker was coming out. That's
okay, so like in early Valencia.
Correct.
Early Valencia.
Yes.
Yeah,
so, like,
those are the good old days,
right
dude.
Yeah, I mean like that was the Wild West, dude. A white dot walked onto your rotation and you weren't like white dot. You were like, oh god, I'm about to get turboed. Like it like you knew there was no Arsha. Everything was Arsha. Like there were lawless people everywhere. It was crazy. Sawson's was like a disgusting hellscape of scum and villainy.
Yep.
You know, like it was insane.
The combo era.
Everyone was fighting each other all the time. It was
how long did people like how long would a duel be? Because right now, like I feel like duels are like
grab so long sometimes, dude.
Really long.
You were smashing your potion button because we had no fairies. That wasn't even a thing in the game.
No loot
and you're running away and smashing whatever one of the 10 keys on your keyboard is your potion key. Then you're running back in and going in.
Yes,
you got a combo, so you're extending it just so you can use your potions more. Oh my god.
Yeah.
People make fun of me on PvP. You weren't there back in the day, okay? It was not a choice like it is now, okay?
Blonde Bear.
That was
back in
that was
my
real.
day. Silver had weight.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It fucking did, bro. You picked up too many silver. You're going nowhere.
My homies.
No maids. What are you gonna do?
Nowadays, kids roll up in dream horses. In my day, they rolled up with wagons.
You run out of pots. You're like, hold on. I gotta buy pots just to finish your duel first.
You knew a homie was getting ready to grind because he pulled out a Heidel with his fucking wagon. All right, he was on
going
his
over to
way.
Sausage and parking on the stairs.
He's on his way, bro. Yeah,
that was the era.
It was the era.
I just watched old Lucaria videos. Honestly, that was some peak BDO where like you would see. Okay. Yeah, I feel like when you see pushes, it just kind of like gets mowed over one way or another, and there's like a little bit of skirmishing going on. Depending on what node war, obviously it'll change a little bit. But back then, like there were warriors standing there with their shields blocking rangers while the back lines are pushing in. Like that was not a joke. That was real, bro. Like there was lines of people blocking the front lines so that people can shoot over them and do stuff. That was nuts.
Nowadays, it's frontal guard. Like the warrior stands on it. I'll block it for you, and then he's black and white. The archer's like, I got another kill. Like that's basically the meta that we. That's the meta that we live in. God help us all.
Do you think we should go back in that direction, or is it like too late?
Well, okay? So all right. So now you guys are the PvE-lers. Forgive them, Lord. They know not what they ask.
Do I not?
So Jay,
you can't go back in
to go back in that direction. What would you like to see done to the game? Kind of move back toward that. But Goon just woke up from their slumber. They're like, you know what? We like J-Kun.
Oh no. First we gotta remove awakening in succession. Now it's just pre-awakening absolute.
Okay. Hey, listen, he said the correct first step. I didn't know if he'd get that one.
That is
the highest we can go to is plus 15. plus 15 black star only. Wait, there's no black stars either.
No, there was Uria weapons.
Wait, Uria.
Silly J-Kun.
Oh, no.
Tricks are for kids. Like, like absolutely.
What about
not.
a legacy server?
I was about to say.
That's what BDO Xbox should have been. I cannot believe they fast forwarded that progression. They robbed the console era of like some of the funnest parts. And you know what? They're still behind. They're like don't have half the content in the game. Like what the?
I don't think that console would have been able to do that because they would have seen it's like getting a wonderful new blanket for Christmas, right? And then your brother opens his gift and he's got a brand new iPod. you know. These were equal gifts and your parents love you equally. Like, no, you don't. You're a failure and your parents hate you. Like that's basically console every single time PC gets something new. And so like I don't think that it would have worked that way. I think that they have to keep trying to releasing updates for it. I also think that like, did you guys hear what happened to console this most recent patch?
What happened?
No.
Oh gosh, you guys should sit down. All right, so here's the tea. All the console players love coming to me. I love listening to their tea, bro, because I'm the only person that listens to it. So console was scheduled to get Calpheon Elvia with this patch on Tuesday night, because they have their patch right around the same time we do. And it was all hyped up. There was like a hype video, tweets went out about it. It was crazy. So the console community's like, woo, here we go. And then the patch goes down, and like 30 minutes into the patch notes, a tweet goes out and says, hey, by the way, you're not getting it this patch.
Oh.
So it would be like, for us, it would be like, hey guys, Land of the Morning Light's coming out tomorrow. Psych! Just kidding. Right? Like
That would be pretty bad.
No.
Brutal. Absolutely brutal. I mean, that is the way right now for console, and it feels so bad. You know what I mean? Like, what are you gonna do about that? But I do want to talk on what Jace talked about there, which was potentially I'm gonna call it, let's see, I'm gonna call it an original term, BDO Classic. Yeah, what do you guys think about BDO Vanilla? If they release just like 1 or 2 servers that were just like, you know, you had to buy a new account and start over, but like it's like the original, and it kind of like slowly pushed through the patches that we used to have, or like the expansions and stuff back then. Would you guys play a BDO Classic? Blonde? It
would be definitely a really interesting experience, because I always keep hearing like the old, oh my god, Sawzins, what's it called, what's that place under Abandoned Monastery, right? That those used to be like Catfish, all those like nostalgic stuff that people keep talking about. I'm like, oh dang, it wasn't there, but now I get to experience it, maybe, possibly. So
I don't know if I'd play it to be honest.
I think it would be popular for all of like 48 hours.
48
hours.
I don't think people realize how good they got it now, to be honest.
They're gonna try to use their maids and realize they have no maids. And then there's
a lot of stuff that like slows down the progression, because like that was the point. They didn't want people speeding to the end. Like that's why they had so many waits.
No, they wanted to.
I don't know if I'd play
money.
it. I'd play it if I had a group of friends to play with, I think. Just because like that would be the point, right? To play with friends. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that there would be a select few people that would play it. I think that the only way that it works, though, I think it worked for WoW because there wasn't like predatory pay-to-win stuff going on in WoW. In BDO, though, you need to understand that the beginning part of BDO, the only people that were having fun were the people that spent $400 on the game, right?
Yeah.
And I know that as somebody that spent $400 on the game and watched my friends who didn't spend $400 struggle way more than me. You know
True.
what I mean?
Weight was a bigger deal. Pets were a bigger deal.
Yeah, and your worker empire was a big deal back then.
It was a massive deal.
Worker lodging, all that stuff. Like everything was a super big deal back then. So like, I think that if they removed a lot of the predatory practices that they had back then, like your character just starts with max weight and inventory on the classic server, right? And then you start with like 20 maids, 10 of each maid or something. And then like
back when season first launched, I thought that's what it was going to be, kind of like a re-launching all the way through. That would have been really cool. And you could like keep it on BDO because it's just like a server, right? Where you can only access it with that character that's tied to that.
Oh yeah, and
the balancing would be probably a mess. So
there's also the hey guys, how much plus 15 reblath do you have? do you guys remember the days
to degrade
the trenches? Bro, in order to, for the players that don't know, back in the day, there was no way to just get fail stacks. They almost never handed out Advice of the Valks. Those like didn't exist yet or anything.
Didn't exist.
Like it was crazy. So what you had to do to get fail stacks was you had to make plus 14 reblath, and you had to click Blackstones on it. And then when it hit plus 15, you actually had to switch to a red alt character and then equip the gear, and then die to a guard in town enough times that it actually downgraded. then put the newly plus 14 replat back in the storage and repeat this process. Like, it was an absolute nightmare trying to fail stack, but that was almost the beauty of it. Like, life skilling was really hard back then too. You used to have to go to Pilgrim. Bro, you wanted to grind back in my day. We didn't go to Bear. Bear was not it. They like ninja buffed Bear out of nowhere. It was Pilgrim's Haven. That is where you went to go gather. Did you guys do life skilling back then?
No. I mean, I remember Pilgrim's Haven.
How is it that the life skiller in this group went on to be the big PvPer? How is that possible?
We killed monster.
Blonde, when did you start playing?
Remembering the old marketplace too, where you had to like
no
fly.
No,
don't talk about the old marketplace.
that was the worst. The only
thing I missed from the old marketplace was the old special deals where you could buy stuff from your own party. That's the only thing that we should have back, because being able to buy your debos that your friends are getting in the thing when you don't need them, like for example, if I just wanted to pass debos to someone in my Owens group, that should exist. That should exist.
Bro, there's no shot. I'm sorry. I just remember the old market system where I would sit for hours. This was the game. You would sit in front of the marketplace for hours. Every single thing you wanted to buy, there were no orders. You had to sit there, and when things got listed to the market, because things were a lot rarer back then, when things got listed to the market, there would be a bid phase on them. So you'd have to click bid on each individual item. This works well for bigger items. But now I want you to consider what this might look like for ancient relic crystal shards. Okay, where every single ancient relic crystal shard, you must bid on it, wait 20 seconds, and then click buy frantically like a loser. And then like some of them you would win, some of them you would lose. And you needed, they're like, artisans were not really a thing. They only gave you 4 durability back then, and only the pay to win users really used artisans. But like for us filthy casuals, memory fragments were really rare back then, like super, super rare. And so running these scrolls was really important. You would run these ancient relic crystal scrolls for like 8 to 12 hours a day, every day. And then you would get a pen attempt. One pen attempt, right? And then you would fail that pen 62 times in a row. And I know that because I went full pry boss gear with 1 durability.
And then you would ask your friends if you could join their party for relic fragments, because you could like try to leech some memory fragments.
Nah, dude, I never.
Bosses.
I used to never leech, like, because like I felt like it was a waste of time. I would just go grind instead. Like, oh my god, bro. I was such a degenerate back then. I used to just roulette my gear every single time I got something nice, dude. It was just immediately thrown into the garbage.
Oh no.
It was so bad. I had it bad, man. I would get a full Tet wheel and my whole guild would be like, rejoice, you're fine again. And I was like, what do you mean? It's all pry already. Like, I would just immediately dumpster it and be like, back to Fogans. And no, I do not mean Elvia Fogans. I mean Desert Fogans. We'll just run back out. Here we go.
Titty and belly.
Yeah. Like, I remember before the tent existed, bro, my buddy and I used to go out and do crescents every day. That was our duo grind. Like, hey, mom, can we have a duo grind? No, we have duo grind at home. Duo grind at home. Like, it was just...
Not even kidding.
Yeah, like legit, because your pets...
Real.
You only had 4 pets back then, not 5. First of all, so you only had 4 pets, and most of us only had tier 3 pets. If you were really, tier 4 pets cost like $200 a piece. Ain't nobody was about that life. You know what I mean? Tier 3 pets were obtainable, but like you just simply couldn't pick up all your loot. So like duo spots were the spots where you could grind with somebody else because there's so much loot on the ground. You're both picking up stuff, and then you could run special deals if you wanted to. The best part was when you walked out of range of your friend. And then you got like a crescent ring drop, and then he came back and like, what happened? Like, nothing.
Is that what you did?
Many times. I said, in fairness, he did it to me a number of times too, so it is what it is. But you guys would like, I think that a classic server might be kind of a hit for some people, and then for other people it's just not it at all. I don't think it would be as much of a hit as like WoW Classic was.
What about like a hardcore server where if you died, you lose all your things?
You're fucking crazy right now. Literally, Show Nation would be standing on the spawn. It's like half the guild is teabagging, the other half is spamming their chat macro, right? And then there's one guy just like killing all the newbies as they spawn in. Like there ain't no way.
Oh no.
Like oh my goodness. Like they would be all challenging them to duels and stuff. I don't know. I mean, remember back in the day when you died in PvP, you lost EXP. That was Iron
You
Man.
had to
You know
tier.
what I mean?
What?
Yes.
You had to tier just to keep your
You were
stuff,
the one.
yeah.
When you died in PvP, you were the one that lost crystals.
You were the loser.
You were the one that lost EXP. Like all of that. And then like again, there's a reason why the PvP player base is really upset that they're pushing all these other changes, because it used to be the other way around. Like PA used to like be totally on board with this kind of stuff, and now they've kind of reversed it. Now it's gotten more of a 180 in the other direction, but it's a different world we live in. God help us all. It is what it is. Okay, so like a little bit on our discussion from before, we're going to talk a little bit about power creep more specifically now. Because honestly, this is a good segue. We talk about how the game was back then. Now we know how the game is now. What aspects of power creep do we like, and what aspects do we feel like are kind of going too far on this? Jay, it's your topic that you wanted to discuss. I'll let you lead off with it.
You know,
Can you describe what power creep is, just so everybody's on the same page of what we're using that word for?
Power creep is essentially, I can explain it from Hearthstone point of view, because it's a card game and it's much easier to understand. So like when Hearthstone came out, a 2 mana, so something that costs like 2 mana, and had 2 attack power and 2 health was like the standard. You fast forward to now, and it's like 2 mana, and you're getting 3 attack power and 3 health with an extra ability on top of it, right? So like over time, you're getting like for less work, you're getting way more value, right?
Literally, the power is creeping as time goes on.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Making sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah. So, Jay Kuhn, how do you feel about power creep? Where we're at right now?
Well, I think power creep, like it's like an inevitable thing. It keeps, that's the natural progression of MMOs. I would say, BDO has done a good job for the most part of keeping older items fairly relevant. Like some more so and some less so than others, of course. Like, pen ogres are still fairly relevant accessories, even though they were introduced back in 2016, right? 35 AP is still a lot of AP for a necklace. Some of the more useless crafting materials were reused as barter trade offers, so they suddenly became useful again. And with the recently announced consolidation of various materials, they're definitely trying to future-proof the game from power creep. So I'm curious as to how they will tackle like itemization in the future, because right now Deboreka accessories are becoming more and more available, right? Deberekas are basically a power creeped version of ogre rings, right? And we'll have more sources from them, from like Altar of Blood they mentioned, and some other places too. And now we have Fallen God armors, and now they announced Fallen God tier weapons coming in the future. So it seems like power creep is upon us. Seems like there was only going to be like 1 BIS item for each slot at this rate. So I know there's some people that kind of like that there's less things to think about when gearing for their class, but it's also nice to have diversity and options depending on your playstyle. So I think if they were to take it in a different direction, like take it towards a more like to improve itemization for the future, maybe I really like the way they took it with Elvia cups, right? For the accessories, like players could spec into more offensive stats with the yellow cups and defensive stats for the blue cups, and it would be interesting to see that for armors too. They kind of have that for the gloves and the boots, like there's the evasion version, the DR version for the gloves and the boots, but maybe they could take it further, right? Maybe the cup upgrade could potentially give other stats, maybe even new skills. We kind of saw a bit of this in the Tebek accessories. And for those people who don't know what the Tebek accessories did, the belt gave you a brand new skill in the category of your skill window. And it gave a bunch of AP, DP accuracy for a minute on a 10-minute cooldown, essentially another E buff, right? But at the cost of having poor base stats with having only like 17 AP for at pen. And then the Tebek necklace was supposed to replace your V and give you a brand new skill that like canceled someone's CC against you and allowed you to CC him back. Unfortunately, this got a lot of negative feedback, so it never got released. But it is interesting to see that there's a possibility of new skills from items is something that they can do. And I think this could be an interesting direction they could take with power creep instead of just higher stats, you know? So
I think the best example of power creep that we got, like I'm okay with power creep in some situations, but I'm not in others. I hate the really low effort, like, okay, go grind for your flame, upgrade your gear, you get more DP now. Like, I think that's boring. I think that it should have been more, like there should have been more build options, in my opinion. For example, artifacts were my favorite addition to the game since I started playing in terms of overall power creep when they were introduced to the game. Because when they introduced artifacts, they introduced one artifact would drop basically at every single grind zone in the game, and then everyone had to go and do research as to where the artifact they wanted for their class was going to drop, and everyone was getting different artifacts, and you had to pull together all this different stuff. And then there were the light stones to worry about. You had all these new light stone effects, and that was very exciting too. It was just a very exciting time for build diversity within BDO, and I think it gave us like a really good amount of options for like what to do with our builds and stuff and like where we wanted to go. But like then they just said nope, never mind, and they released the Kabua artifact, and now none of us will wear another artifact ever again. Like, and that's just I think that's the dumbest design I've ever seen. Like, we went from, okay, this was a really good idea and something that new players could obtain, like, because new players could go out and get the artifacts that they wanted for their class. They can't go get the Kabua artifact. They can't do that. What do you want them to do? Drop 10 billion? Well, it's not going to be worth it for them to drop 10 billion. You know what I mean? Like, I now you can tell what a new player looks like by, like, they just open their inventory. It doesn't matter what their gear says. Are they wearing the artifacts? Okay, well then they're just probably a Tuvala to me. It's fine, right? Like, it's really annoying to me because like I felt like that was a healthy way to introduce build diversity, and then they killed it. I don't know. How did Blonde? How do you feel?
On the general scope of power creep, I think we've done a pretty good job, like player catch up in general and stuff like that. Things haven't gotten too wildly insane. I think like the main thing about power creep is like, for example, the new free tap Black Star. I think that is a good thing when we know there's something on the horizon for the next upgrade. Having like this artificial cap of like, all right, here's your tap Black Star, and then you just have one more thing and you're done. Basically, with that thing is like not too great, but like there always has to be something later on when they do the power creep of introducing more and more items for the catch up of the game. I do agree with the diversity and stuff is kind of rough, especially with the artifacts. I feel like that could have been a large door opening for a lot of experimentation, and they kind of ruined it by making one specific main staple that has kind of a little bit of everything. Excuse me. I think that they could introduce more of those things in more grind spots because they need to have something for us to go for in these grind spots in the future instead of it just being silver again, because we have 500 spots that get us silver. So that might be the avenue they may be working into. Like, we've got monster D on these and just HP, but what if we had like actual DR or actual evasion, and then you could stack that with the actual light stones, and I think they could do something like that. But I think the power creep in some ways is really good. In other ways I feel like it's weird, but it depends on like what the game philosophy and direction is, right? So for example, let's look at the Debo market, for example. Like, Debos were like this legendary accessory that only some insane gear cap grinder would go for, and now it seems like Debos are moving into the main staple. Like, arguably, looking at the price point and everything, Tet Debo 3 set is a pretty good jumping off point from basically like bulk pen Kaposha and Tet to pen Black Stars. Like, like you're paying either an ogre necklace or the same a little bit more than that price for your Tet Debo neck, right? And then it has a 3 set, so then you're incentivized to get that, and then you get the free Jatina accessory for the Narc earring for grinding an Odalita and doing stuff like that. So like that could be a good thing, but having nothing else after Debos, where like a lot of people are just on that like, oh, that's it, we're done, feels kind of weird. But again, if the game philosophy is, because the complaint is like only NA is able to buy crons on the market and every other region has to buy them from the vendor, and they want to move away from that to make Devos like easier and more accessible. Well, I I would agree if it weren't every single other region and not just NA. But I like the idea that PA is addressing a problem that a lot of players have a sentiment about. A lot of people are upset about cron stuff. So if they make something more plentiful to then enhance yourself without crons, then like you won't feel as bad about that sentiment of the grind. Now that means then they would be grinding more and they'd be dropping more, and then people would be playing the game more, which is a positive on both ends. But it just depends on what the game philosophy and direction is. I think in some ways it could be good, but like not seeing the next stage after this can be problematic. Because you're gonna have some people that are gonna feel devalued or whatever. Like, you know, I had to grind when I got one every 8 hours. I remember watching some of these. Not me. I'm just saying. For example, I saw some of these streamers grind and they go on like 16-hour dry streaks. Now they're like doubling and tripling the drop rate on these things, and it's like, man. But like, you know, trolley problem. We don't, you know. We want to help the future generation, right? But I think it's important when you do power creep, there's something else to strive for. And I feel like a lot of people are in this weird mindset of like, oh, if I grind and get this gear, then I could play the game finally. And it's like, okay, what's playing the game to you? Because other than doing your monster boss and dungeon, like if you're not interested in PvP, that's kind of it. You're gonna now log off and quit the game. like I don't know.
It do be like that. So like, okay. Now let me ask you this. Yeah, okay, we can talk about power creep and how typically it's a bad thing. But where do you think BDO should be in 5 years? Like if you think like what do you think the good stats should be in 5 years? If they're hitting their nail on the head, right? Would you rather them introduce like a whole new gear wheel and we just go to 600 AP?
I think they've actually done a huge thing with what they talked about at the ball, increasing AP caps so that every point of AP does actually feel rewarding. Increasing those caps so that, you know, when I went from this gear to that gear, because the spot was AP capped and it was my favorite spot, I felt little to no difference. Versus at Darkseekers, when you're using like, you know, Death Blow, and then you maybe switch over to species damage or all out attack, you see that difference. And that was some of the most invigorating motivation in the game I've ever felt. I'm like, oh my god, okay, what crystal can I take out and put more AP here, or this a little bit here, or this, that, there, and it just like, you know, swapping the crystal builds. I was reinvigorated to go play the game and try out more builds and try out more stuff. I think that's a step in the right direction, but when it talks about gear, I don't know, it's kind of complex. I don't think it should be a whole new gear wheel, right? They have a really good job of like, all these other games do this thing where every new patch, it's a whole new gear wheel. You get a whole new set of gear, whatever, theme park MMO, whatever you want to call it. You're just replacing everything. I think that the style that Lost Ark and BDO does, where you're with the same set of gear and constantly accelerating it up, even at like a fairly decent pace, because I mean, the player sentiment from like the average player is like, man, I'm tired of grinding. There's so much to catch up on, this and that. But like having it be only a small little bit, right? For example, if they introduce new Fallen God weapons and you can go back to Prido Tritet Pen, people with like 800 costumes are going to be bing chilling on pens, and then you have the new players still stuck at like probably Tet Blackstar. So they have to do this incremental increase again for the power creep, not to feel like, oh my god, now these players are shooting ahead. Back when Renown was out, when they introduced Renown, anybody that was like literally just a slight ahead was feeling like an unkillable boss. You know what I mean? So introducing these like short steps further and further, I think is good. I don't know if it needs to be 600 AP or what. I like the idea of Lightstones, but I don't know specifically what it could be. I mean, we sat for the last 3 years, and the only thing that's changed on our gear wheels has been artifacts, right? Since Odalida's release, we've gotten artifacts, and then technically the Black Star-ish versions of stuff, but it's the same weapon. You know what I mean? And they've just added to the Vel's-Heart. They've added to the armor to upgrade it to the next stage. Like, yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. I think they're doing pretty good.
I think, okay, if I had to suggest something that I would love to see in the future, you know, I always seem to sort of talk about this thing whenever class changes are, you know, a topic, or like some sort of like passive or talent tree that allows you, like, you know, more like class customization and stuff like that. I feel like that could be something that could be implemented in like either, you know, power creep in like many versions, either in items or like for the class itself. Like right now, every person who plays the same class essentially has the same kit, right? And the passive or talent tree that I mentioned could help steer players towards a specific playstyle. So for let's say on like, you know, for which I could take a passive, or like I use like some sort of item to enchant my weapon to give me more increased healing done or something, and that would steer me towards more of a supportive playstyle. Or let's say I take a passive that maybe, oh, I give up my healing spells but in exchange for more damage, and then now you're just playing a more like glass cannony playstyle. And maybe that could be a direction that they could take you know, the game further in 5 years, is more like specific uh ways, like archetypes of how to play class. Like we can even take a more conventional DPS class like ninja or something. There could be a passive that changes the playstyle from melee to ranged, and you primarily focus on throwing shurikens or something like that. Or let's say we take a more utility route, and there's a passive that focuses more on bleeds, which would maybe reduce your direct damage but maybe put more of a focus on damage over time mechanics. And I remember they even had this new healing reduction mechanic that they introduced with Scholar. Maybe they could incorporate that into Bleeds or something. So I feel like that would be really cool to see in BDO in 5 years from now, is those kinds of archetypes, like, you know, pop out.
I think the best look for BDO 5 years from now is the Riot MMO that we're all going to be playing.
Oh,
Just being realistic.
Really?
Just being
Really, you
honest.
think so?
Yeah, that
I think-
or Ashes of Creation. Kick W.
I don't know why okay, I don't want to insult people. I don't know why everybody thinks Ashes of Creation is gonna be this insane, just new level. It's gonna shatter the ground.
We need it. We need it.
I just don't see whatever Kool-Aid people are sipping. I do not see it. I just don't see it. I don't know what it is.
We need this.
But the right MMO is going to be something probably a lot of people are going to play. The problem is that it's not like a full-time game. I think the design of it is it's a casual game that has like small time-gated progression to keep you logging in every single day to do that stuff. I'm sure there'll be stuff to run around the world and collect and do, but it's gonna be that game like you can spend some time on, but it's gonna be very theme parky. You want to go there every day, or you want to go to the park every day and swing on the swings and slide on the slide, and then you go back home and the next day you do the same thing.
That was hurtful.
Sorry, I don't want to lie to you, bud.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that, like, honestly speaking, in 5 years, we better have a new spec. Like, I think that having a new spec is, I think a new spec is important.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I feel the opposite. I feel like the Ascension was like the perfect culmination of everything they've worked on to get away from what sucked into the video game.
What do you mean,
I think Suck arguably ruined. I think
Ascension?
Suck ruined the game, and that All Awakenings should technically be what Ascension is, where everything kind of flows into each other, and it's easier to balance that way.
You keep saying Ascension like it's been released on all these classes. The most recent class has something that we call Ascension, which is the first time we've ever seen it.
Well, sorry, my apologies. On mobile, it's a big thing, and the mobile team is what originally created BDO, and technically Archer and Shy are an experimental version of Ascension that doesn't technically really flow the right way, but this is the culmination of those efforts making something that's, in my opinion, actually really well designed. So this is how it should be from now on, in my opinion.
Dude, that's crazy. Well, I mean, like, honestly, I think it does. I think Ascension is like super great because it helps simplify the game again, because again, you don't have Pre-Awakening and
I think
Awakening.
there should be a balance of complexity and simplicity. It's tough, right? Like, people will argue that Awakening and Succession is what arguably ruined the game and made things way out of pace. So, like, making things simplified is good, but I believe in your idea of, like, build diversity and having something different and having more options. I think that should be focused more on, like, the Raboms and the, like, for example, which Wizard specifically having, like, Rabom Fireball or Rabom Heal is, like, you have to make that conscious decision to have something that is going to support you or something that is going to deal damage, and that's an important choice to make. Very big distinction, and I think that more classes should feel like that decision being made.
Yeah, I mean, I think that comparing it to mobile is dangerous.
Mobile's
should
where
not-
it's at, bro.
Yo,
Mobile's
put
got
the
like
gun
20 mini games. They got all the better like life skills. You have your own. Okay, you can teleport to your house and your mansion and have like horse stables and all this stuff and create. Oh my god, you guys! If you guys are omega lolling on mobile, you should just play it. Truly play it and then tell me how you feel.
Well, it's a
Mobile's
goddamn
nuts.
mobile game, Blonde. Of course, nobody wants to have to run to the stable. I
Do
don't
you
want
guys
to
not
have
have
to.
phones?
I don't want to have to like mouse move my like all this crap. Like, no, I don't need any of that. I want to hit like one button and then have it do like 3 abilities, because that's how mobile has to work.
A lot of the good things
It's a-
in BDO right now is stolen from mobile. A lot of like teleporting to the bosses and teleporting to this, all this like simplification, as much as it's like what makes the world expansive, at certain points of the game getting too big, you do need to kind of bring it back. That's what the Magnus and stuff does. But all this stuff is taken from mobile. I think that some of the best features are taken from mobile. I think that's what the Altar of Blood rework is going to be. I'm just saying, you guys should play mobile before really going hard on it, because
I'm not bashing it. Mobile is amazing. Mobile makes more money than BDO does.
There's stuff that I want on BDO that has on mobile, and that's where we're stealing our ideas from.
Yeah, well, I mean, also their YouTube team is like way better than ours. If you've seen like how they advertise
They're
stuff,
gamers.
but see, here's the deal: there's more money in mobile, like way more money in the mobile version of the game.
In any mobile market, yeah, it's just gonna be ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, like people aren't as concerned about balance there. You can totally predatory monetize everything they want you to. You know, like the consumer wants you to be like, they want to pay to win on mobile. It's not like this thing. But like
I played it, did put a diamond, and I had fun. That's just my 2 cents.
BDO mobile is, some people are saying BDO mobile is dead. That is not the case at all.
I don't believe it.
No. BDO mobile
I don't believe
makes,
anybody's gonna say it unless they've played it, which I don't think anybody here has played it but me.
BDO mobile makes more money than Black Desert PC does by a landslide, mainly because there are you take the number of people in the world that have a PC, and that's a big number, right? Then consider the amount of people in the world that have a phone. Okay. All done. Like it's just that much bigger of a market, and for people to play. So like, I don't know. I think comparing it to mobile though is dangerous, because like, again, there's certain things on PC that we like to do that like, I don't know, running to the stable. I want to RP more when I'm at my PC and I'm playing a game, right? Like I want more of a gaming aspect. I want more raids. I want to play with my friends. On mobile, I want to be able to skip all that dumb stuff, and I want to be able to do the cool combat, and like that's it. And then I want to put the game down, right? Maybe grind for a little while and then I'm done, right? And then I want it to basically automatically play the game for me. I don't want the game to automatically play the game for me on PC. So I think comparing it to mobile in that respect is very dangerous.
Sure, yeah.
But Jay,
how dare you, Blonde Bear?
Jay,
No,
you ever
You
played
guys,
mobile?
you guys should play it. It's a good game.
No.
You guys are crazy right now. Blonde. You literally, you're the guy that sits here and grinds the entire pie. Like in the background, if you guys could see like a reflection, like Choice has like a reflection in the background. You can see what he's doing on his computer, like when he's on like other people's shows and stuff. And guess what he's doing? He's grinding. Like that's what he's doing. Blonde is literally grinding while he's got BDO Mobile propped up on some
Do you have BDO Mobile
like
right now? Are you playing
stand.
BDO?
He's got
Right
like
now,
a
Blonde?
stand for his phone on the left side, and he's like controlling it with his left finger, because you know Zerker only takes 3 fingers to play correctly. And ET can phone fucking home with it. Like this dude is grinding on both. He's like, guys, I know that you've been grinding for 7 years on PC, but hear me out. What if you also grinded on your phone with your PC?
Oh my god, you could play the same class.
Hey, listen, it's good times.
Going.
You're crazy, bro. Literally insane. Okay, I believe that we are out of time here, so let's do closing thoughts on like power creep and like the global lab changes, and what you guys kind of think of that, and then give me your outros too. Blonde, we'll start with you.
The global lab quote unquote balance changes. Oh boy, it's a good thing they didn't come out with it. I think that was a smart decision, and listening to feedback is important. Leave it on the test server to test, and then we can kind of go from there. Power creep is good if done right. I think they're doing a pretty good job. Having variants and stuff like that is very important. I'm Blonde Bear. Catch me at Blonde Bear on Twitch, and I am going for the LVI to the Mercenary.
You sounded so dead inside when you said that, and I really enjoyed it because you one tapped all
I've
your
gotten
devos.
so many Debo earrings from the fist over the last week. I'm really frustrated, to be honest. Because the only thing you can cheer from the arm is the raw drop, which didn't used to happen, and the ring. And it's been earrings every time.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
God.
Yeah,
So
it sucks.
brutal.
And
It
then I
must
had to
be
get
so
a
hard
tet
for you.
and sell it.
He had to get a tad. He had to get a tad.
It's ridiculous.
So hard on him.
It's ridiculous, man.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Okay. And Jacob?
Closing thoughts is that I want everything to work out for everybody and everyone to live in harmony. And you can find my name. My name is Jacob. You can find me over at Jacob, twitch.tv/JacobBTV for the T.
God, bro. These are the people that I do the dungeon with every week. And I am Blue Squadron. There's always something going on this channel. We are always running events. We have YouTube videos coming out every single day. The Discord is crazy active. There's always people sitting in voice and having a good time. So if you don't have a community in BDO, come be a part of our community. It's absolutely fantastic. If you guys missed the Old Moon podcast, it is always put up on my YouTube a few hours after the podcast airs. It is also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So you can catch us there as well every week. So from all of us here at the Old Moon podcast, have a great rest of your week.